Well, I'd really like to welcome all of you to our live presentation tonight. Dr. Gary Lindner, he's a physiologist. I have been a professor to several different universities, published a lot of papers. I think the impressive thing is literally a world authority on reproductive physiology, and still got your hand in that quite a bit with animals, and pretty much shaken that all upside down and made a technology of your own on that. And I think that's really commendable. And I just kind of think about, wow, physiology, this is life itself, and just honored to have you as an advocate of what we're going to talk about, and the amazing sidekick Sparks Johnson, a legend of himself. Why don't you guys take it over and tell us about these powerful concepts that can change everything?
Well, thank you very much, Dave. A legend in himself, huh? I've not quite conceived that.
Actually, you said that very well, Dave. Awesome.
Gary, what I really noticed is that you really have your hand in it, so I just thought I'd point that out to you.
That was a nice, pun is the lowest form of humor.
That's the lowest, huh? Everybody, normally, if you have any questions, I will be monitoring chat, so you'd like to put those in there. And I can pretty well tell you that Dr. Gary probably has some up his sleeve. This is going to be a very special presentation tonight. And so without further ado, Dr. Gary, go ahead, please.
Well, great, Sparks. I mean, we're really here to talk about self-care, concept of self-care. Let me start my screen share, and where is that? Right there. Okay. And are we up and everything look good there, Sparks? So, what I want to talk tonight, and this is going to be a pretty short presentation as far as me talking goes, and then we're going to open it up some questions and some discussions. And we want to be healthy by choice, not by chance. And the reason I say that, and Sparks, unmute yourself, please, so we can have a little conversation. So be healthy by choice, not by chance, because if we leave our health to chance, what are the chances, Sparks, we're going to be healthy? Are they good?
They're very, very bad. In fact, I would say they're almost nothing, but your math will probably make that wrong.
Well, it's about 1 out of 10 by the time we reach 65. And many times in this country, I think when we look at health, we have certain perceptions, and sometimes we perceive health as being very difficult, when actually it's really pretty simple. And we perceive it that way because a lot of times all we've ever been taught are two concepts, and that being diet and exercise. And usually that involves a lifestyle change, which very often when we're talking about changing things in ourselves, we aren't very open to doing that. But I had a conversation with somebody today here in Sparks' office with Rex Olson and one of our people that were checking out or looking into self-care. And really, her whole concept of health was really based on those two things, diet and exercise. And through self-care and self-care awareness or awakening here, we talk about a lot more. And I'm not saying diet and exercise aren't important, but what I'm saying is they're just one piece of the puzzle. Self-care really is an active process through which people become aware of and make choices for a healthier life. So when we're talking about awareness, really what we're talking about is some type of education or getting some information. And really that was the concept behind this whole series, this self-care series, is really to get people some information that maybe they hadn't thought of or maybe they weren't aware of. This concept of leaving our health to chance is very, very risky. And the reason being is that are very good. And here's a slide that was put together by Heather Abbott, a very talented graphic designer that works with Dave. And think of this. Think of a wheel of fortune and spinning that wheel. And you've got just one pie there where you're going to be healthy. Now, do those odds look very good? They really don't. They really don't. And we have a number of different, we have one there half healthy, But I think if you had a choice, you'd rather be healthy rather than half healthy. And the question mark at the top is really for all the different types of chronic diseases we have in our society, in our country, in the world, that we can't list on this wheel of fortune just because there are way too many. So I think if we had a choice, we wouldn't spin that wheel in regards to our health, because it'd be a big gamble, and chances that we're going to be healthy are not very good. Here's what I'm talking about. This is a major problem with health, not just here in the U.S. or North America, but globally. Regardless of your age, 1/2 of adults age 18 and above have one or more chronic diseases. 25% have two or more. By the time we're 65, 80% have one or more or multiple chronic diseases. It accounts for our major expense in health. We spend about $3 trillion a year in the U.S. in health, and about 86% of that's spent on treating and managing chronic disease, which for the most part could be prevented. So when we're talking about this, wouldn't we rather just not get them to begin with? These types of diseases are responsible for 70% of deaths in the U.S. each year and 68% globally. And this is really, again, part of this awareness. None of this information is presented to scare anybody. It's just to make you aware of what's going on. If we look 100 years ago, 1900, say circa 1900, major cause of death, either globally or here in this country, were communicable diseases. Specifically, flu and influenza were the major causes of disease. Chronic disease was a much smaller portion of that. Now, through the advent of antibiotics and some other Western medical type things, this has totally shifted to where chronic disease is the major problem, major health problem that we are presented with. And the way we treat and manage it is through prescription medication for the most part. 4.3 billion prescriptions are filled in the US annually. Now, it's more than doubled in less than 20 years. It went up 15% last year. It's going to go up another 15 to 20% next year. And it doesn't seem like there's going to be any slowdown to it. So that's where we really got to start talking about what choices can we make to prevent this, to prevent some of these chronic diseases and this big problem that we have. Here's why. And I challenge any of you listening to this, whether you've been around with us for a while or this is your first time viewing this presentation, is to check into this. And really what we're saying here is our world has changed. And our world has changed, but biologically, we do not change very quickly. So what happens is we've got a very, very big problem with environmental toxins. What that causes, because they're in the air, it's in our water, it's in our food, it's all around us, it's in our homes, in our offices, it's outside, it's inside, and we're constantly taking these in one fashion or another. What that then does is creates pollution in people. And that's what a body burden is. It's basically pollution in people. And then look at the interrelationship between each of these and the onset or the onset of a chronic disease. And very, very strong scientific information behind that. And we're going to have a couple slides to show that in just a second. I might mention here too that we're looking, let's just take food for an example. We have 600,000 food items in the US. 80% of them have added sugar to them. Now, 1822, the average sugar consumption per American was 5 grams a day. It's now like 158 grams a day. Now, again, I'll bring up that concept. Do we change very quickly? No, but we've changed what we're putting in our body, and for the example, for sugar, toward the point we can't handle it anymore. And what happens? Unless we have the pancreas the size of a liver, there's no way we can metabolize that amount of sugar. So we become overweight. We have obesity, which then leads to what? Usually type 2 diabetes. So again, this is really all part of becoming aware. You look at the problem, with environmental toxins, it's not something that's going down, it's going up. There's over 80,000 chemicals used in the US currently right now. We add 5 new ones each day, and most of these are not tested for toxicity on human beings before they are released to the environment. Each of us have more than 200 contaminants in our body. The cover story from Time magazine here says the poisoning of America. It's not a new problem because that cover story was published in September of 1980. So the question I usually like to ask, has this problem gotten better or has it gotten worse in the last 36 years? And the answer is it's gotten worse. It's gotten exponentially worse. So if we look at this, we're talking about pollution in people. And on this slide, we have a representative of a study that was done in 2005 by the Environmental Working Group, which tested the umbilical cord blood of newborn infants. And you would think of a newborn infant basically very pristine coming into to the world in a very healthy state. But really what they did when they tested that blood, they found nearly 300 toxic chemicals, 187 which are carcinogenic. Now, that's quite disturbing. Also, the other thing here too that this kind of points out to me is that if we look at this and interpret it a little different way, who's at greatest risk for chronic disease in our society? Is it people that are older or younger? And I think we'd say younger, because they are already compromised at birth, and the point to where they get to that pollution or that in people or that body burden to where it expresses itself as a chronic disease, that interval is much shorter. And if we look at the information given to us by CDC, World Health Organization, what we see is that chronic disease is showing up earlier and earlier in our lifetimes. It's not unusual for somebody in their 30s or 40s, sometimes even 20s, to start expressing chronic disease. If we look at children, asthma in children, allergies are higher than ever before. And again, I think there's a very, very strong correlation between these things. These are the types of diseases we're talking about. Every disease on this page has 3 things in common. 1, they're chronic disease. 2, they are implicated with environmental toxins as being one of the factors for their expression. And 3 is that they're all preventable. And again, this is what we spend the most money on. This is the largest cause of death in our society. So I think if we had a choice, we would really make that choice to prevent these. So that's the first part of this presentation, which is really the awareness part. Be aware of these things, be cognitive of these things, actually do some of your own research on these things. And if we have that awareness, then we can take some actions or make some choices to be healthier. So first of all, when you got a problem, don't panic. You want to actually move in a linear fashion so you can improve things. And the solutions are very simple. They're actually found in nature. And let me put it this way. While Western medicine and pharmaceutical companies study disease, there's a company from Japan, been around for 40 years, and has invested millions and millions of dollars studying our health. And sometimes people think that's kind of the same. It's not. They're actually diametrically opposed. Studying disease and studying health are 2 different matters, in themselves. And here's what the company came up with. Basically, these are 5 areas that are vital, essential for life. And they found a way to provide them for us the way nature intended. Now, there's no big secret here, all right? It is really simple, it is common sense, but I think everybody listening this evening can relate to and will agree with that our air is no longer healthy, whether inside or outside. Our water from municipal taps or from wells or from a creek or from an aquifer has been compromised. It's been altered. 60 to 70% of Americans don't get adequate enough sleep or quality sleep. They're usually too busy. Sometimes they'll sacrifice sleep to get a project done or something else. And sometimes they just can't sleep because they can't shut down. Our food has definitely been altered. You know, a lot of contaminants in it, pesticides, herbicides, fungicides, and we spend 90% of our time indoors and don't get enough natural light of the sun. 69% of Americans have a vitamin D3 deficiency, which the symptoms of are very similar to symptoms of different types of chronic disease. And the answer is pretty simple: get 20 minutes of sunlight a day. So it's giving these things back to the body. And they aren't just nice things, they're essential. We cannot live with any one of these five essential things. I lost for words there for a minute. So let me introduce you to this company, Nikken. They started over 40 years ago in Japan, Fukuoka, Japan, and had a very, very interesting concept of health, of having balance in your life. They have evolved over that 40 years or 4 decades to really address this problem of environmental toxins, chronic disease, not getting the right things or these essential things that our body needs. And they put this in a very attractive package that we call the Nikken Wellness Home. Now, just that word itself is very attractive. And what it's about is creating the healthiest environment possible for you and your family. This can also be utilized for your office, for other places where you're at as well. So they're an R&D company. They've invested millions studying this. They've come up with a solution. And when I first bumped into them, I was actually traveling in Asia, and it was totally circumstance that I bumped into the concept or to this company. And I didn't think much about it, but then it kept resurfacing in my life. You know, in certain places, I used to travel a lot globally, domestically, and I kept bumping into this company to where I couldn't ignore it. And I said, I ought to really see what they're about and who they are and what they believe and what their philosophy is and what they're doing. And the more, and again, being a physiologist, being a scientist, we love to study. And I studied Nikken for quite a long time, but I became more and more appreciative of the path they were on and where they were going. And to the point where, you know, I became a customer. You know, we all hit a certain point in our life or a certain age where we really can't do things that we used to be able to do, if you know what I mean. And I think Dave and Sparks will nod their heads to where you're saying, gosh, I used to be able to do that, but, you know, I just can't quite do that anymore. And I was at that point in my life, about 46, 47 years old, where the profession that I was in at the time takes a big toll physically on your body. And I was looking for some solutions. I didn't want to go down that path where my health just got worse and worse. I didn't want to go down the path of treating and managing problems. I really was looking for a self-care solution. And the more I studied about Nikken, the more I said, I think they're really onto something. Let me start by, as a customer, let me invest in some products for self-care and see what they do. So here we are now, 18 years later. And at 64, I will guarantee I am healthier than I was at 46. And my family is as well. You know, our children pretty much grown up in this concept of a wellness home. When they went to college, they didn't just go to a dorm room, they went to a wellness dorm room. They took these products with them. So that's an awesome thing too, that you could pass that on to your children to really have a good plan, a self-care plan to be healthy by choice. So this is a couple of slides I put together, and actually it was with Dr. Peter Goldberg some years ago. And it's just, you know, a rudimentary image of a slide and of a cell. And we have 10 trillion cells in our body, and we need to replace 6 billion of those a day. Now that's a pretty daunting task, but we need to provide our body with the things to be able to do that. And so what this is showing is really everything a cell would need to stay healthy and to replicate itself. Now here's the very interesting and exciting part about the Nikken Wellness Home. Here is the product or technology associated with that need. Now, if I'm on stage, and some of you listening tonight probably seen me on stage, this is the point in time where I start jumping up and down on stage, because it is very exciting. It's exciting from a standpoint as a physiologist, science, because it's very profound. But it's based on very elegant research, but then delivered in a very simple, common sense fashion. And I think people are looking for that. They really are. The wellness home provides our body with our essential requirements, just like we were showing with the cells. We help to reduce the pollution in our bodies, the body burden of toxic chemicals, and pretty much it's common sense and a pretty much simple way to do it. Now, for those of us who have been around Nikken or been advocates of self-care for some time, we've seen some pretty amazing results with this. And it's, just today I was talking with somebody on the phone earlier that made an investment into healthy water. And the way she feels today is, in her own words, 200% healthier and better than she did a month ago, just within 30 days of just making one choice to provide her body with healthy water. So it sounds simple, and it is simple, but I think we underestimate the power our bodies have when we provide it with what it wants, and we provide it in a way that nature intended it to be. It's for these reasons, and this is a quote I came up with some time ago. This Nikken Wellness Home is a complete self-care solution. It is the most logical, effective, and affordable self-care system in the world, bar none. There's nothing else like it. Nikken is probably the only company that can provide this, and it can provide it in a very simple, easy fashion. And it's basically, I've always called it one-stop shopping for good health. I mean, it really is. Very affordable products, competitively priced in the marketplace, very easy to obtain, very efficient company as far as shipping and delivering products to you. And I think we all appreciate that. So my suggestion is, if you're a guest on this presentation this evening, is take that first step and register as a customer. I call that opening your own self-care portal. It's free. There's no obligation. You have access to great self-care information. You have the direct ability to order Nikken products and start this self-care process. You have first access to new products. We just came out with a new product today. We're calling it Paleo Bar. It's an awesome product. Ask the person that shared this presentation with you this evening to show you that product. I think it's going to help a lot of people nutritionally in our fast-paced, fast food type of world. Really, really excited about that new product. So that's my suggestions here. And also I want to make mention that we have self-care series where we talk about each one of these essential areas of life and of health. We have an Air Matters presentation, a Water Matters presentation, one on sleep, one on light, and one on weight. And next week, we're going to have one of my co-hosts this evening, Walter Sparks Johnson, present on Air Matters. And so I invite you all to tune in again next Wednesday at 6:30 p.m. And let's see, I think that is the end of my slides, I believe. And, went to another slide. I'm a total nightmare, I really am. So, any questions or anything anybody might have? Dave, I'm trying to find a way to stop sharing my screen. There it is. Okay. So you guys, unmute your phones, please. Dave, Walter. I don't know if anybody's chatted some questions.
That's fantastic.
So far, there are no chat questions, but somebody was happy that that the number of calls has been reduced down to 3. So I thought I'd toss that in.
Okay. Well, speaking of those calls, our next call is on Saturday at 8 a.m., right, Dave, Pacific time. Yep. And if you do have some specific questions, that is a great opportunity to stump the doc. My good friend, Dr. Ash Ekholm, is the host of that call. And we had a lot of fun last Saturday on that call, didn't we, Dave?
It was superb.
Yeah.
Deep have quite a few questions, and in fact, we kind of walked away at an hour, and there were still a few questions left. But if you didn't get those answered, she's back this Saturday.
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun. I learned a lot. I opened up an outline and I was just typing answers all the time while she was talking.
Yeah, she's.
I had people texting me questions that were listening to their phones.
Gary, there are 2 questions. Can you open your chat? Do you have a chat box you can open up?
I think I do.
You want to read them, Sparks?
I'm sorry?
You want to read them? Because there's quite a few people on the phone, and then you can just read it.
Okay. Well, someone wants to know what are the best products for, and I'm going to spell this because I don't want to mispronounce it. Candida.
Candida?
Yeah, I do not respond to specific health challenges. That is a great question for, I talk with concepts and ideas. And again, because it's more of let me ask you this, regardless of what health challenge you may have, good water, good air, good sleep, good nutrition, and some light is going to help. And that's how I'm going to answer any question I ever get that has a specific health challenge. But that is a great question to hold on to until Saturday. And Dr. Ash. And Ash actually being a, medical, but she's an osteopathic physician, can respond to those questions. So.
Doc, we have a question from this newbie consultant. His name is Ben Woodward, and he would like to know if you have a suggestion for a starting point on starting the wellness home. Where would you?
I certainly do, Ben, and for me it's water. And the reason being is that everybody drinks water, but nobody drinks enough water, and they don't drink the right quality water. And I would suggest from here, if they've looked at the Self-Care Matter general presentation like I just saw, then direct them to Water Matters and let them make a choice from that. And there's a number of reasons I will speak to as far as physiologically that water is important. One, just like I mentioned in the presentation, we replace every drop of water in our body every 30 days. Many times people having discomfort with headaches or joint problems or anything else is really just dehydration. A lot of times gaining weight is the centers in the brain for dehydration and how full you feel. Satiety are very close to each other, and many times we feel hungry, but we're really dehydrated. I think one of the major, and I'll just throw this out there, one of the major problems we have as far as weight or weight matters and chronic diseases such as type 2 diabetes are directly related to to 75% of us walking around dehydrated every day. My wife used to say this to her children all the time, and some of you have heard me say that in the Water Matters presentation. She would say, kids, water is not just a beverage choice, and it isn't, but we think it is. It is an essential, it is our most essential nutrient. If we look at it that way, we look at it a little different. Everybody drinks water. They should drink more water. They should drink a higher quality water. We address that in Water Matters. That is a great starting point for anybody wanting to implement a self-care program for themselves.
Yeah, I always think that it's not a matter of how much water you drink. I think it's a matter of how much good water you drink. Because if you're drinking a lot of really bad water, it's not all that good for you.
Well, I would disagree with that.
You would, okay.
I would.
Well, that's why you're the doctor.
Bad water or good water, you still need to be well hydrated.
You need to be hydrated.
You need to make a choice to drink quality water, because when you're drinking water that is poor quality or has toxins in it or whatever it might be, or it's not the way nature intended, really to utilize it, your body has to expend energy to utilize it. Let's say we need to filter some things out of there. And really our health, if you want to get down to it, it's all about energy. Energy is neither created nor destroyed, it's always conserved. And if we use more energy to repair things in our body rather than filter water or air, wouldn't we be better off?
Okay, first of all, I
hate to disagree with you, Sparks,
yeah, right. To the guest of Ben Woodward, I have to tell you, ma'am or sir, that you have one of the best mentors in the world who has invited you to Nikken, and this is a tremendous, tremendous opportunity for you. We do have one other question now that I've tried to mend my fences with Ben. Light Matters and Weight Matters are going to be planned presentations, and I'll answer that and say yes.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Weight Matters is done. We just haven't presented it yet live and got a good recording for it. You and I have talked about maybe doing a screencast of it, so
Yeah.
it's available and out there very soon. Light Matters is a new presentation for us, and I'm still doing the research and formulating and putting it together. So it'll be out there in a couple of weeks max.
We have a question. Do we still have time for questions, gentlemen?
I got time.
Dave, you're the master.
Sure. Let me stop the recording here.